On this episode, we talk about how many ounces should a Cortado be, what is the most important factors for brewing a great cup of coffee, and what methods tend to do well with which kinds of roast profiles.
Loaded questions.
What's going on, everyone? Kendon and Timothy here at Victrola. We're here at our roastery on Pike Street, and we have got some more questions for you to answer. We want to help you get more out of the coffee that you get from us or from anyone to help you brew better coffee at home. So we've got a few questions here that people left on our Instagram and our Facebook, and you can do that as well. And what's great is that if we use your question on the show, we send you a free t-shirt. So if you hear your question called today, look out in your DMs because I'm going to be finding out your address and t-shirt size to send you a free Victrola t-shirt, which would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
So we want to help you get more out of your coffee. Here's a couple questions that we had. Let's get right into it. Daniel G says, how many ounces should a Cortado be? I've seen 3 to 8 ounces. This is like the eternal argument of what this drink actually is. Does it exist?
It exists.
What do you think?
It definitely, well, if you name something and it exists, that's the philosophy of that.
Yeah,
but,
all words are made up.
But the Cortado, that's definitely a drink that's on our menu. It's kind of like on our secret menu, but you can order it. There's a lot of places where the Cortado will be called a Gibraltar. Right. There's one place that calls it the Makeout, just because
Cat
they
Cloud,
hate,
what's up?
Because they hate. Yeah, I got you. In our stores, a Cortado comes in a glass like this. It is about 4 ounces. It's about an ounce of espresso, give or take, depending on how that espresso is extracting that day.
Right.
And then it's going to be a cooler steamed milk, a little bit cooler than a latte, just because these drinks are kind of meant just to pound them.
Yeah. I always drink it standing up at the bar, pretty much.
Right.
Talking to the barista, and it's done in a couple of gulps, so you want it just a little bit cooler so it's drinkable right away.
Right.
Versus a latte that you might carry with you. That's as opposed to like a macchiato, which is a shot with just a tiny bit of milk.
It's a tiny bit of.
And a cappuccino that's more like 5-6 ounces.
Right. They're just drinks. The main difference between these two is this is going to be a little bit closer to a latte milk, and this is going to be a little bit closer to a cappuccino. That's all she wrote on that.
Yeah, it's just kind of the in between like a macchiato and an 8-ounce latte, somewhere in between there. I love that ratio, the Cortado ratio. So anyway, that's the general kind of consensus. I'm sure there's people could argue for days about that as well. But anyway, thanks, Daniel, for your question. Next question is Alex W. In your opinion, what is the most important factor to a good cup of coffee? Proximity to the growing or roasting source, the quality of the bean, the method of the prep, or the company you drink it with, or something else? That's a great question, super great question. The thing that we kind of went back and forth about this, we asked a few of our team members here, is it all matters. It does.
It all matters.
However, the question asked is, are you in a brewing competition? If you are, then every single thing matters, down to how many loops you make around the pour over. If you're not, and most of us aren't at any one moment, then you can afford to kind of have trade-offs.
Yep.
So one of the examples we gave was on one of the other Ask Victrolas about camping. You might want to travel light and bring some good coffee with you, and boil some water and make some coffee there. But you don't want to bring a grinder, an extra weight and all that stuff. So you might pre-grind your coffee ahead of time, knowing that trade-off is, I got this great coffee. It's pre-ground, but I'm gonna drink it within 3 or 4 days or whatever, however long your trip is, and I'm enjoying it with great people in a great setting. Great, that's a great trade-off. So that might be one where you trade things off a little bit.
And it's all that matters. The better the coffee is grown, the better it's going to taste in your cup, and that's just how simple that is. If you're getting that commodity coffee, that's not going to be as good in your cup as say a single origin Honduras.
Right. And every single thing does impact the coffee elevation that it's grown at, the age of the green coffee, the roasting profile itself, how far off roast it is. Every single little thing matters. But unless you are actually trying to compete with it, it's going to be the tiniest little nuance that some of these things that you may not really need to worry about them. So the big rocks are things like, is it freshly roasted coffee?
Freshly roasted.
freshly ground if you can do that.
Yep.
Great clean equipment.
Yep.
And brew temperature.
Clean water.
Good water, good clean filtered water. Those are the big rocks, and then later on you can start to fidget with exactly how many turns around you did, because that impacts turbulence and things like that. The biggest thing is, did you enjoy it? Great.
Yep. If you enjoyed
That's
it,
what
great.
it comes down to.
Did you not enjoy it? Then what did you know? If you didn't enjoy it, you didn't enjoy it.
Yeah, and that might be the company, that might be the individual coffee itself, or it might be the setting and things like that. So I know it's kind of a generalized answer, but really it's kind of like, what do you like to drink? Right. So work with the big boulders first, like freshness and all the right proper brewing parameters, which we talk about in other videos. And then after that, then you can start to really dial in on the fidgety stuff when you want to. So anyway, great question, Alex. Thank you. Last question here is from Mandy K. From experience, I tend to like dark roasts brewed with an AeroPress and medium or light roasts brewed with a pour over. Is this common? And if so, can you explain why? Yeah, I would probably say that's pretty common. That's kind of how I think of it too. Once again, this is a little bit of a whatever you like to do. If you like it on French press or AeroPress, or if you like it on a pour over, then great. But in general, we have some thoughts on the way these kind of line up.
I would kind of say, like in the cafes, what I do, a lot of my job is actually figuring out how coffees taste better prepared.
Right.
And if you come into our cafes now, you'll notice that we have an option for a pour over, an option for an AeroPress. And the reason is because those two coffees, those separate coffees, taste better as that brew method than the other one.
And it's not that the other ones are garbage.
Not the other ones are garbage, but like that's how they
taste best.
Taste best.
Yeah.
It's definitely a thing. An AeroPress is going to give you a lot more like a better body to it. It's going to give you a little bit more of the body of that's going to be a little bit better. The acidity is not going to be as high.
Right.
And the sweetness might be pretty good. While with a pour over, you're going to get a lot more brightness to it, a lot more sweetness. The body is going to be a little bit lower to it, just because that filter is going to extract a lot of those like sediments and oils that the AeroPress would let through. Right.
So in general, to kind of match it up, super general terms, and this is depending on what you like, but in super duper general terms, a little bit darker roast tends to do well. Can do well on filter as well, but tends to also do really well as a full immersion method, like a French press or an AeroPress or maybe a Clever, where you're getting a full immersion and then you separate it and it gets a little bit more body, because those coffees naturally have more body because of the roast. A little bit lighter roast tends, not always, but tends to do well as a filter coffee, especially like a pour over V60 or a Kalita or a Chemex, because it has nice clarity. It has really bright acidity and tends to bring out those tiny little nuanced flavors at the expense of a little bit of the body. Not that it's super thin or anything like that, but those tend to do well with that. But once again, it's kind of, what do you like? If you like a Sumatra on pour over and it brightens it up for you and you really like it, great. If you like that super juicy Kenyan on French press, that's also great.
That's great.
You know, just depends on what you kind of like, and experiment around with it. But hopefully that kind of gives you some general guidelines, I guess. But ultimately they're just guidelines. It's not really a pirate's coffee code. It's more of a guideline.
Throwing it back to 2000.
When did that come out?
2007?
No, like 2004.
Was it?
We'll have to look that up. Anyway, that's all we have for today. Thanks everyone who wrote in. Thanks for those questions. If we didn't answer your question, you really want to get it answered, take a look back to our other videos. We may have answered it, but also just keep asking it, so that way we'll see it up again. You guys will get some free T-shirts coming your way, and then coming very soon, depending on when you see this, it might be out now. Our holiday blend, Victrola's holiday blend, is coming out. It's rocking, ready to go. We're going to start roasting it tomorrow as of this taping. And so take a look out for that. It's going to be super delish. We want to help you get more out of your coffee this holiday season as well. So write in some questions that you might have about coffee during the holidays. We'd love to help out and get you brewing great coffee. That's it for today.
That's it.
Thanks for watching, and thanks for brewing Victrola coffee. Take care.
Have fun.